Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here, and this is Noelle Waisaki
Oh my gosh.
because she just got married
It's true.
to Mr. Waisaki.
Yeah, it's true.
Woo!
It's true. It's
And,
official through like Social Security and the DMV and all the things you need to do it on.
And you didn't have that baby yet?
No,
Didn't
it's
have
still...
the baby yet. Okay, it's coming.
Nope, it's here.
Noelle's our community director here. It's good to be with you all this evening. Welcome to all of our online people. Wherever you're joining us from, we're glad you're part of this free community. This community is for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And there is one thing we do not do. On the count of three, y'all shout it out, all four words. 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame. So what we're doing tonight is, we're doing this 4-week series on our 4 values. So no shame is next week. But tonight it's recovery. And I want to start with a little 53-second video by the great Macklemore. He was interviewed by Kelly Clarkson this week. Here's Macklemore.
And really open about relapsing, right? So you relapsed during COVID?
Yeah.
What do you think hit you to where you relapsed?
My heart started beating when you started talking about it. It was an intense time. I'm used to a certain schedule of touring, of being gone, of being home, of recovery, and being able to go to a physical 12-step meeting. And that stopped during COVID. And eventually, I was on Instagram while being on Zoom. And this is what happens to me if I don't prioritize my recovery, if I don't put that first. Then I will lose everything. And that's what happened. Luckily, it was only a couple weeks, but it caused a lot of pain. It's been 2.5 years. I'm still working of getting back trust. But I think that it gave me a reprieve of a reminder again, a slap in the face. This is your life. You get one of these. What are you going to do with your precious time on this earth?
Yeah. You can see our value of recovery is my recovery is worth it. One day at a time. I will focus on putting my recovery first so that everything I love doesn't come last. And isn't that what he just beautifully said?
And this is the one series that we do every year.
It's the one series we do every year. We're committed to doing this once a year to go over our 4 values because they're that important. So, Noelle, tell us what's coming up in the community.
Absolutely. So it's March 11th. So we will be kicking off a second service. So it's not until Saturday, March 11th, but it'll be at 5 p.m. So the 5 p.m. service will run just the same way the 7 p.m. service, except for we're not live streaming it. But childcare, the cafe will be open. So 5 p.m., March 11th, we are kicking off our second service. So I apologize if you've been here before with a miscommunication thinking that we've already done it, but it won't begin until that second week of March. But we're super excited about it.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Yep.
And I do want to mention before we play the video, parking has become a bit of an issue. We can't block our neighbors' driveways. That's kind of important to them. So don't block their driveways. If you need more parking, a block and a half away is Safeway. It's an 89-second walk because I timed it. So if you can't find a place to park at Safeway and walk your butt on over here if you're able and willing.
The last time you said that it was 80 seconds. So are you getting slower? Or...
I'm getting older is the thing, Noelle.
Okay. Well, y'all pray for Ryan.
Let's just play the video, shall we? New service video right here.
Can y'all kick off the new service video for us?
Oh, yeah.
So we'll see y'all here at 5 p.m. March 11th for our in-person service, 7 p.m. in person, and we'll stream it online. If tonight is your first night here, we're really grateful that you're here with us this evening. We have welcome bags right outside this door here. It has a little bit about what we do here at Free Spiritual Community, a little bit about what Tammy and her team over at Wagon Coffee does. There are some fresh roasted bags of Wagon Coffee in there and just some free swag in there. So please grab one on your way out and just know that we're really grateful to have you and welcome to Free. Next up, we are kicking off a new NA meeting here at Free Spiritual Community. It'll start February 19th, and it'll be from 2 to 3 in the big kids room right next door.
That's tomorrow, by the way.
That is tomorrow. So it is kicking off tomorrow. It will not be held the first Sunday of the month. And so if you look on our schedule, it makes a note of this. But for those of you who don't know, the NA area committee meeting is here in this building all day from like 9 to 5. And so the first Sunday of the month, we will not be having this NA meeting from 2 to 3, but every other Sunday we will. And so that kicks off tomorrow. So,
and I said it last week when we moved in here, I think we had 3 meetings.
Yeah.
And so just in like the last, 10, 11 months,
Yep.
I think we have now 26 or 27 meetings
That's
here.
true.
There's a new Al-Anon meeting here, by the way, if you're looking for Al-Anon. It's on Thursday nights.
Thursday nights at 7:30 up in the big kids room. We have an ACA meeting at noon on Thursdays.
Yes.
And now this NA meeting on Sundays.
Yeah, and we do have a schedule. So if you're needing a schedule, they're out
Yep,
there. So
and they're
a
up to
schedule
date,
of all the
so.
meetings here. Thank you, Noel. Good stuff. All right, y'all, the way we begin here at Free on a Saturday night is with celebrations. We celebrate together. We lift up the good, whatever the good is. We take 3 minutes for this part of the service. If you're online, give us the good that's happening in your life, the thing we can celebrate together. We believe that God joins with us in the celebrations. Maybe that's a sobriety anniversary, a birthday. Is there a birthday in the house? I know we have a few. The new babies, the new jobs, the new homes, whatever it is, we want to celebrate that together as a community. So Matt will pass around a mic. Darren will pass around a mic. Just raise up your hand and give us the good. We start with the good. And we take 3 minutes. Take 3.
Hello, my name is Christine, and I just wanted to say after 3 decades of active alcoholism, yesterday I celebrated 5 years without a drink.
Way to go, Christine. Congratulations.
Hello, my name is Shiloh, and I'm celebrating my 10th birthday today.
Yes, Shiloh. Happy birthday, baby.
Hi, my name is Felicia, and I just got into sober living a week ago.
All right, congratulations, Felicia. Good stuff.
Hi, my name is Shamia. I've been coming for like 7 weeks now, and then yesterday was 2.5 years I've been clean and sober.
All right, Shamia. Congratulations.
Hi, my name's Alyssa, and today is my 90 days sober.
90 days. Way to go, Alyssa.
My name is Michelle, and I will be 9 months sober on Tuesday.
All right, Michelle.
Hi, my name is Danita, and I have 137 days sober.
All right, Anita. Congratulations.
I know we got more celebrations here. Come on, get your hands up. There we go.
All the way in the back.
Hi, I'm Christina, and I just celebrated 3 years of sobriety.
All right, Christina. Congratulations.
My name is JC, and I just celebrated 18 months yesterday.
All right, JC.
Mic drop. We got 55 seconds. Get us some more hands.
Oh, look at us being all quiet. We got run behind you, Darren.
There we go.
I'm Sonic. I've got 6 months off speed.
Sonic off speed. There you go, dude. Congratulations.
Hey, I'm Ben. I'm 3 years sober as well.
All right, man. Congratulations.
I'm Kelly, and I have 45 days sober today.
Hey, way to go.
Finish it off. Finish it off. There we go.
Hi, I'm John Gomez, and I have 3 weeks sober today.
All right, man.
Good job, man. Congratulations, everybody.
All right, who's joining me up here? Shiloh, are you joining me up here? Now, my daughter celebrated her 10th birthday, is celebrating it today. It's one of the ways I remember my sobriety birthday, because when I hit 10 years, then it comes her 10th birthday, and there you go, baby. You'll need that. I'm glad you're here. Happy birthday. I love you. Are you ready to read the first one? Okay. Oh, you got an easy one.
1, 2, 3. Wait.
Yeah.
1, 3, 2. Jared had just hit 3 years sober.
Way to go. 132 Gearhead. Mike Anderson says, I've got a mic on me, so you can hold that one. Grateful for spending the next 2 days with my granddaughter. Congratulations, Mike. Way to go, dude. That's the good stuff in life. Enjoy that.
Dan and Christina celebrated 1 year with Austin since his car accident. Grateful for this year together as a family.
Yeah, way to go, Dan and Cindy and Austin. We'll celebrate that with you. Stephanie says, Al-Anon rock bottoms look like addicts bottoms too. I'm celebrating my new sponsee, a woman who's ready to take her life back. Way to go, Stephanie. Congratulations.
Kate just hit 4 to 5 years.
4.5 years. 4.5 years. Way to go, Kate. Do we have more? That's it. Hey, thank you, baby, for joining me up here. Happy birthday. Thank you, Dee. All right, y'all. So we're in, as I stated earlier, we're in week 2 of this 4-week series of what we stand for. This week, we stand for recovery. We created Free because someone had to stand for the addicts and loved ones of addicts who were suffering in silence, for the spiritual refugees who didn't have a place of belonging. A traditional church model doesn't create space for the conversations we know have to be had. Free is standing with those who are barely hanging on, who are longing for something new. Free is bridging the gap between spirituality and recovery. In this place, God meets us exactly where we are. This is what we stand for. Now that said week 1, but we're actually in week 2, I promise you. It is on recovery. And here's what I know. If you are in recovery, you have one of 2 options. You can build your life around your recovery, or you can build your recovery around your life. And see, that first one, building your life around recovery, it's about developing healthy habits in your life, staying connected, staying engaged. In fact, after this series, we're going to do a 7-week series on habits, and we're going to go deeper into that. But see, that second one, if you try to build your recovery around your life, in my experience, you will always become too busy. Things will come up and get in the way, and the kids will demand more of you, and you're getting more kids, or your job is demanding more of you. Life is demanding more of you. So what happens is things get in the way, and then all of a sudden your recovery takes a back seat. And believe me, in my own recovery journey, I have done it both ways. But here at Free, when we talk about recovery being one of our primary values, we're talking about the former, not the latter, building your life around your recovery. And see, ultimately the question becomes, what are you doing with the gift you've been given? So I was about 2 years sober, and I went to breakfast with a friend of mine, and he was also in recovery, had many years of sobriety under his belt, and he was one of those active guys in recovery. And for me, at 2 years, I was not real active in my recovery. I wasn't going to many meetings. I wasn't connected with my recovery comrades. And so here we are sitting over breakfast. We ordered our bacon and eggs, and he asked me this question. He said, Ryan, have you ever seen the movie Forrest Gump? And I'm like, dude, like, yeah, who hasn't seen that movie? Don't raise your hand if you're one of them. Have you ever seen Forrest Gump? Yes, I've seen Forrest Gump. To which he proceeds to retell the entire story of the film Forrest Gump to me over our bacon and eggs. And he gets to the part and he's really excited. He says, Ryan, do you remember when Forrest ran through the jungle, through the mud and the mess, and he was looking for his best good friend, Bubba? And remember, he was running through the jungle, walked through the mud and the mess, and as he's looking for Bubba, he notices there's a soldier wounded lying on the ground. But see, Forrest, he knows the way out. So he picks this wounded man up and puts him on his shoulders, and then he takes them to this better place, a place where healing and restoration is actually possible. And he goes back in looking for his best good friend Bubba. And he's running through the jungle, through the mud and the mess, and it happens again. He sees someone lying on the ground wounded, but Forrest knows the way out. So he picks him up and throws him on his shoulders and carries him to a better place, a place where healing and restoration is actually possible. And he does this again and again and again. And finally, this time when he goes back in, he finds Bubba. Do you remember it? Bubba was wounded, lying on the ground. But see, Forrest, he knows the way out. And so he picks up Bubba and carries him to a better place, a place where healing and restoration is actually a possibility. And he's telling me this story, and I'm thinking to myself, why is he telling me this? Why is he rehashing this film with me? And then it dawned on me, oh, I get it. He needs to know that I'm good. Yes, yeah, I know you haven't seen me in many meetings lately, and I know I'm not connected right now, but he needs to know I'm good. And see, dude, what you need to remember is I am a pastor. Yeah, 2 years sober, I was a pastor at a different church. It was long before we started free. And I need to tell him that, dude, every week I can stand in front of people and I can point to the way out. I can point to healing. I can point to restoration. God is over here. Good life, better life is over here. And before I could get any of that out, he says, we in recovery go into the jungle. We run through the mud and the mess. And we walk with people. Sometimes we carry people because we've been given a gift. We know the way out. That's who we are. We've been there. Dang. You see, I want you to think about for a moment your defining moments in life. What are those moments that shaped you most, the ones that formed and transformed you, the real moments that changed you? And see, if I were to give you some time to think about these moments, and then if afterwards I were to ask you, tell me about these defining moments in your life. Most of you, not all of you, but most of you would begin telling me about the hard places you've been. You would tell me the stories that were filled with a bit of pain and struggle, a bit of suffering. And most of you would begin telling me stories like that divorce you went through and how your heart just shattered. Or you would tell me about the loss of a job, or the loss of an identity, the loss of a loved one. Or you would tell me about that bankruptcy and how you lost it all and you didn't know if you'd come back. Or you'd tell me about where addiction took you. You would tell me about the bottom and how you lost everything and you were barely hanging on. You didn't know if you were going to make it. Do you know, when I talk to people about defining life moments, the stories we don't hear, I never hear the story of, oh, dude, let me tell you about this 7-day Caribbean cruise that I took. You know what I mean? A beautiful moment, a good moment, but probably not a defining moment. I never hear the story of someone saying, oh, man, I just remember this time, like being at the new car dealership and driving off of the parking lot in my brand new Volvo. A good moment, beautiful moment, but probably not a defining moment. And so you see, we need to do this every now and again, to remember that we're not alone, because it's always those moments of letting go of something. It's those moments that involve a bit of struggle and pain and suffering. So I want to ask you if you'd be willing to stand, if in the last 90 days, just the last 3 months, if you have been through something hard, and you define the hard, if you've been through something hard in the last 3 months, would you just be willing to stand? Yeah. Yeah. And take a moment and look around. You see how you're not alone? Yeah, I know. It's the big lie and keep standing for a moment. It's the big lie we buy into when we're going through it. We tell ourselves, no one understands. No one knows what I'm going through. So I'm just going to isolate over here and be on my own because they really don't understand. My suffering, it's a bit unique. Now, keep standing if you went through that hard thing, or maybe you're going through that hard thing now, but you went through it and you came out on some other end, or you have the sense that you are going to come out on some other end. It's not what you would expect. It's not what you would imagine. You wouldn't hope to go through this thing again, but you're coming out some other end and you're still standing and breathing and you're here. Everyone is standing. Do you see how we're not alone? Do you see how we're all in this together? You can be seated now. You see, you've been given a gift. You're here. What are you doing with that gift that you've been given? You know, I was talking to a friend of mine just recently, and we were talking about all the stuff we're talking about now, and I was telling her, and she's a caregiver in a large community of hundreds of people. And we were talking about life and relationships and recovery and how sometimes it gets messy. And I dropped a line on her. I said, you know, recovery is sometimes like doing this stuff with people because people can be hard. And it's like you're jumping in the mud with people and you don't exactly know what to expect, or you don't always know what you're doing, or if you're doing it right. And she stops me and she says, well, you know about the mud hole, right? And I said, I do not know about the mud hole. Tell me about the mud hole. She was all kinds of passionate. She began telling me about the mud hole, and the next morning I had this image, this diagram on my desk. And this thing is so simple and so profound. I think you're going to love it. I want to share it with you. So this is the mud hole. Now you can see the care receiver is at the bottom of the mud hole. The care receiver, that's the one who says, I'm struggling down here. I need some help. Things aren't going well. And then the other three characters represent our three responses to the one who is in need of care. You see that first one, sympathy. Sympathy is kind of cruel, isn't it? The sympathetic one, maybe you've been there. It's where you just kind of look over the ledge and you say, it sucks to be you. I see you down there. Man, it looks like you're in quite a predicament. I hope someone's coming for you soon. Sucks to be you. And then the other one, you got the over-identification, the over-identifier. Some of y'all are going to relate to this one. The over-identifier. They're the ones that, maybe this is you. You see someone struggling and your heart just starts to bleed and you are filled with so much compassion. And so you jump in the mud with them and you say, I'm here, now what? And they're like, guess what? There is no now what, because you don't know the way out. You're not connected to anything. There is no now. Now we're both in the mud hole and it does neither of us any good. We laugh because we've been there, huh? And that third one, it's kind of the sweet spot, empathy. You see, the empathetic one jumps into the mud hole to offer care, but the empathetic one stays connected to a source that is greater. The empathetic one stays connected to the life source. And they know that if I disconnect from this thing, if I turn my back on the life source, I am of zero help at all. We're both still in the mud hole, but I'm not connected to anything and I do not know the way out. You see, my brothers and sisters, are you jumping in the mud with people? Not in ways that are sympathetic, but empathetic. And do be reminded, as we're talking about mud and getting muddy with people, you cannot jump in the mud with everyone. you have limits, and your ego will hate you for this. You have limits. You can't be in the mud with everyone. There are times you need to set boundaries because you know some people are in that mud hole and they say they're suffering, things are bad, but they have no intention of leaving the mud hole. You cannot save, you cannot rescue. Sometimes you need to move on to the next mud hole. You know what I'm saying? Now, here's the thing about Jesus. Jesus was always getting in the mud with people. We have story after story of Jesus being in the mud with people. And here's what we have to understand. Whenever we read these stories about Jesus from the New Testament, it was these early Jesus followers that were telling these stories, writing these stories back in the first century. So that's the stories we're reading. Now, when we read these stories, they often told these stories with this as the backdrop. Jesus is Lord, not Caesar, not the Roman emperor. Jesus was sent from God, not Caesar. Jesus offers peace, not the Roman emperor. You see, we have to remember, so crucial, their historical background, where they were speaking from, was living in the midst of the first century Roman Empire, the largest, most powerful empire the world has ever seen. Now, do we have any history buffs here tonight? All right, y'all are you're gonna dig this like a ditch. So there was a first century Roman historian. His name was Tacitus. You might remember Tacitus from your history classes in high school or college. Tacitus did a lot of writings. One of his most prolific writings was this writing that he cleverly titled The Histories. In the Histories, Tacitus tells this story about a first century Roman emperor, the Caesar, and his name was Vespasian. Anyone remember Vespasian? First century Roman emperor. Do you know the Roman Colosseum? Yes, please say yes. You know this. He started construction on the Roman Colosseum. His son finished it. His son, I believe his name was it Flavius? Flava Flav? I don't know. His son finished the construction. So Tacitus tells the story about Vespasian, and this is absolutely fascinating. So hang with me on this. A man comes to the imperial gates where Vespasian was, and this man was blind. He was in need. He was in need of care. And he says to Vespasian, please, I know you have the powers. Please heal me. Please, Vespasian, just spit on the dirt and make some mud with your hands and rub it on my eyes, and then I'll be healed. Because apparently this is how they did it in the first century Greco-Roman world. The spit in the mud had healing powers. And Vespasian looks at this man and he just laughs at him. He says, why would I help you? What could you offer me in return? But this man is persistent, and a crowd begins to join around the gates. Please, Vespasian, just spit on the ground and make some mud and rub it on my eyes and let me see again. So Vespasian, he's a little disturbed now. So he goes inside to his council and he says, guys, I don't know what to do. This man, this lunatic out there, he's like persistent. He wants me to heal him. What should I do? And the council says, do it. Because either way this goes down, you're going to look good in it. Because if the healing works, then you stand before the crowds and you say, look how great I am. All the credit, glory, and honor comes to me. And if it doesn't work, you just tell the crowds, this man is too far gone. This man is beyond repair. This man is at too much of a bottom in his sickness, beyond healing. So Vespasian goes outside, spits in some dirt, makes some mud, rubs it on his eyes, and it works. The man could see again. And Vespasian, the story that Tacitus tells us, Vespasian stands before the crowds. And he's worshiped. He's told how great he is. And he says, look at me. Look at what I can do. Now, I want you to hold that story as you hear this story. Another first century story about Jesus, a blind man and making some mud. Comes from John's Gospel, chapter 9. As Jesus walked along, he saw a man who was blind from birth. Jesus' disciples asked, Rabbi, who sinned so that he was born blind, this man or his parents? Because they needed someone to blame. Jesus answered, neither he nor his parents. This happened so that God's mighty works might be displayed in him. After he said this, this is totally congruent with first century Greco-Roman world. He spit on the ground, made mud with the saliva, and smeared the mud on the man's eyes. Now here's the abnormal part. Jesus said to him, go and wash in a pool of Siloam. This word means sent. So the man went away and washed. When he returned, he could see. The man's neighbors and those who used to see him when he was a beggar said, isn't this the man who used to sit and beg? Some said it is, and others said, no, it's someone else who just looks like him. But the man said, yes, it's me. So they asked him, how are you now able to see? He answered, the man they called Jesus made mud, smeared it on my eyes, and said, go to the pool of Siloam and wash. So I went and washed, and then I could see. It's a fascinating story, isn't it? Because the disciples, the ones who are closest to Jesus, are asking all the wrong questions. They're looking for someone to blame. Why is this man sick? What does parents do? How many people ask you in addiction, or you hear that question around addiction? Where were the parents? It must be the parents' fault. What about the family dynamics? Who screwed up here to make him or her this way? And can't you imagine Jesus saying to them, seriously? That's the way we're going to roll? We're going to look for someone to blame? We're going to start casting stones? Oh, I get it, y'all. Y'all need to ask your questions so you can create distance, so you don't actually have to get in the mud with them. And what does Jesus do? He makes some mud with his spit. He says to the man, go wash and you'll be made clean. You know what he doesn't do? He doesn't stand there afterwards and say, look at me. Look at how great I am. You know what he doesn't say to the man? He doesn't say, oh, and by the way, once you're healed, I want you to come back to me because I'm such an egomaniac and I need you to tell me how great I am. I need you to go tell everyone how great I am. In fact, at the end of the story, if we were to keep reading, the text tells us that the crowds were looking for him, but he was nowhere to be found. He says, go back to Siloam, the place where you were sent. Why? Why go back to that place? That's the place I'm trying to get away from. That's the place of sickness. And can't you hear him saying, go to those people. Those are the people that are still in need. You have something now that they don't have. That's your people. And when you do that, you'll experience an even greater healing. You see, my brothers and sisters, what are you doing with the gift you've been given? Where's your Siloam? Who are those people? Where did you experience that healing? Who are the people you need to jump into the mud with? What are you doing with the gift you've been given? Are you loving and serving others? Or is now recovery just about you and your healing and you're good now? Because the truth is, you do know your healing, your wholeness, your well-being, it's always wrapped up in their healing, their wholeness, and their well-being. That's who we are as people in recovery. We make mud together. We keep making mud and we keep giving away to keep it. This is part of what it means to put our recovery first so that everything we love doesn't come last. And if you're sitting here thinking to yourself, man, why are we talking about mud? This is weird. I mean, out of all the images of recovery, why are we talking about mud? Because that's where you started. Is it true? I mean, weren't you the one in the mud? I was. Weren't you the one in that mud hole at the bottom of the pit? God, help me. Someone come along and help me. This is miserable. I wish there was a way out of this. I'm losing everything that's important to me. This addiction thing is taking everything from me. Weren't you the one in the mud crying out? I was. I remember January 7, 2013. God, help me. This is miserable. I don't see a way out of this. I think this is just the way it is. I think this is my plot in life. You know, if you were to take a Bible and open it right to the center, you'd land in what's called the book of Psalms. The Psalms, there's 150 of them. an ancient collection of poems and prayers. And if you are in recovery, I'm telling you, the Psalms are for you because they tell our story and they tell us in the most rawest form. The psalmist of Psalm 40 put it this way. See if it's your story. I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and heard my cry. He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on a rock and gave me a firm place to stand. Man, isn't that our story? I don't know about that patiently part he started with. I think maybe that was some revisionist history. Because when I was in the mud hole, I didn't know the first thing about waiting patiently. I still kind of suck at patience. It's a journey, progress, not perfection. But I do know this, isn't it true? Didn't God or universe or source or greater power or higher power, whatever you want to call it, didn't God hear your cries and rescue you from the muddy hellhole of addiction? And didn't God set your feet on the rock of recovery? Isn't it God who gave you a firm place to stand, to love others, to jump into the mud and the mess with other people? I mean, do you remember your story? As my sponsor often says, don't forget your last drink. You were there in the mud, crying out. You see, mud, it's who we are. It's where the story begins. We get to keep making mud together. So, as this song plays by the great Jelly Roll, anyone know Jelly Roll? Yes, yes. As the song plays, this song is called Save Me. It's one of my favorite songs. We have some topsoil, some dirt. Now, if you were first century people, I would invite you to spit in the dirt and make some mud. But you know COVID's going around still, so we're not going to spit tonight. I invite you, if you want during the song, if you need a reminder of who you are, a reminder of what recovery is about, a reminder of your own story of recovery, that it starts in the mud and we get to keep making mud together. I invite you to just take a little pinch of mud and throw it in one of the buckets of water. And when we do this together, we are indeed making mud. So as you hear this song, if you want to sit and reflect, you're certainly able to do that too. But if you want to make some mud, I invite you to grab a handful and place it in the other bucket full of water.
2, 3.
that we meet along our recovery journey, and they are like the Forrest Gump to our Bubba. And you see them in a meeting, and they say something, and you look at them, and you're like, oh my gosh, did we just become best friends? And then she's like, yep, do you want to go do karate in the garage? And you're like, yep. And Christina is one of those people. So we welcome up Christina Dykeman to the stage. How are you feeling? It's good to have you up here on a
It's
Saturday
really
night.
bright.
I know, but you can't see anyone.
No, everybody's naked.
That's great. So when we sat down and met this week, you said something that really stuck out to me. You said that on paper, I never should have been an addict or an alcoholic. Like everything was lined up for me that wasn't in my cards. And what did you mean when you said that?
So I've heard a lot of stories in recovery of people and their childhoods and things that had gone wrong, and I was not one of them. I had loving parents. I had a great home. I was doing great in school, great at sports, things like that. When you looked at it, nothing had happened, right? I didn't have a single traumatic event, but there was always this feeling that I was never going to be good enough. No matter what I did, no matter how successful I was at anything, there was always going to be that void and need for validation. And I remember feeling that really, really early on. We kind of heard about those pivotal moments, and mine is one of those. I had gotten really good at lifting for sports. And my mom had made a comment, and I just want to preface with, my mom is my biggest fan in recovery and my biggest support. But she had made a comment unknowingly that kind of set the tone of, if you keep lifting like this, you're going to look like a man. And being young and 12 years old as a girl, right? You're like, what? And for her, again, meant no harm, but the way that I took it and the way that I carried that sort of set the path for that I was never going to be good enough. I was constantly going to need validation from the external world.
So that really kind of set the tone for, you struggled with coexisting addictions in your teenage years. Yeah. And so in trying to fill that void of like, how can I be good enough and how can I be worthy enough? And if I do this X thing, what did your coexisting addictions look like in your teenage years?
Well, the one that I really found first was an eating disorder. And it's probably the one that to this day, is the hardest to understand, right? So when I was 12, I found that I was really good at this eating disorder, and not to get too far into it, but I couldn't be anorexic because I failed at that, right? I needed to eat for sports. So I found this vicious cycle of, binge, purge, workout, binge, purge, workout, that would continue on for years and years. And nobody really talked about that, right? Like, it wasn't something, I was good at it. Nobody could take it away from me. I was in control, right? Like, I had complete control over it. And then I found alcohol shortly after.
And you said the very first time you drank alcohol, what were you, 14?
Yeah.
That you knew it was
freshman at homecoming. I knew the minute that it hit me, I was going to be chasing that high for the rest of my addiction. I got blackout drunk, and I freaking loved it. Yeah. It wasn't one of those where I was like, let's have a Smirnoff Ice with the friend. Like, I was like, straight vodka. How quickly can I not feel things? And alcohol worked. It filled that void that the eating disorder couldn't. It gave me that numb for a longer period of time. Wash, rinse, repeat.
Yep. So you're overachieving your way through your teenage years.
Oh, yeah.
You go to CU Boulder, and there's some pivotal things that happened to you early at your college experience that really shaped your addiction.
Yeah, 2 weeks into college, I was in a very unsafe, unfortunate situation. a lot happened in an evening that I had to do a lot of work on. And I put myself in a situation that wasn't safe. And after that, I really just hit a point of not caring anymore. I just started to do anything and everything to numb. And I knew, that the control was gone at this point. This was all about how quickly, again, can I not feel? Can I, I knew at this point I wasn't ever going to be good enough for anybody or myself. So why not just go down the self-destruction?
Yeah. And so you told me during this time you found cocaine.
I did, yeah.
And so tell me about the revelation of finding cocaine and then what that did to your eating disorder.
Well, so my messed up brain was like, oh my goodness, if we do a lot of cocaine, we don't have to eat, which means we don't have to throw up. So look at me, I'm recovering. I'm not participating in my eating disorder because I'm doing cocaine. Man, addict brains are amazing. So the hard part is cocaine's expensive, right? And
you're a college kid.
I'm a college kid, and at some point my parents were like, "How many books do you really need?"
There's a lot of school books here, Mom.
So I found Adderall, which again had a very similar effect. Eating disorder had taken a back seat, so I'm recovering, and I'm just drinking like a college kid. Any justification that I could find to, not absolutely look at how bad things were getting.
And there was a situation. So your brother finds you in the midst of your eating disorder.
Yeah, my brother caught me throwing up between my sophomore and junior year of college. And that kind of was one of those like rude awakenings where like, oh, my family knows. I no longer had control. I was no longer hiding it. And I ended up going to treatment. And I remember my dad, again, loved my father, saying, you don't look thin enough to have an eating disorder. And I was like, once again, I'm not good enough. I have failed at the one thing that I thought I had control over, right? And I remember being in treatment and just thinking, like I was pissed at myself that I didn't end up in a hospital rehab because I wasn't good enough at it. I was jealous of the women in here that were even like more sick than I was because they were better. They had achieved, they were successful. They were being noticed. They got attention.
You mentioned a woman who had, a young girl your age who had passed away from her eating disorder.
Yeah.
And that at that time, like how our sick brains work, like you were jealous?
I was jealous. And for many reasons, that she was no longer had to deal with everything. And that she was better than I was at it. I mean, this is how deep this need and this like validation stuff went for me.
Because we talk about as addicts that alcohol is just a symptom, right? Our eating disorders, our over-exercising, our overeating, our over-boozing, our over-drugging is just a symptom. So those causes and conditions of not feeling worthy, of not feeling good enough. So you graduate from college and you find your real drug of choice, but it was something that was prescribed to you, and so you were, this is fine.
Yeah, again, my justification brain. Graduated college, got a great job, the dream job. At that time, eating disorders weren't cool anymore as an adult, so you had to go to something else, which was alcohol, which stopped doing the trick. So eventually I ended up getting a prescription for Xanax. My prescription from my doctor that
it's a big prescription.
Big prescription, a lot of pills for a very short amount of time. Take as needed. I mean, challenge accepted. Like
y'all know how that goes.
As needed. Okay.
120 pills in 30 days.
Yeah,
great,
I mean,
let's
it was
do
like
this.
4 or 5 pills you could take a day, and I was like, this is enough to kill a donkey. Like, I think this sounds great. And that ultimately would become what would be the hardest for me to get off of. And I didn't know anything about it, right? My doctor was like, oh, you're anxious, take this. And I was like, yeah, great, wonderful. I was also still drinking, and if anybody knows the combination of that, it's not a pretty one. But I could hide it. I could hide the Xanax, easier than I could hide anything else.
Yeah, you could hide it through a prescription and through a doctor. And
through my name on a pill bottle.
Yeah, absolutely. So October 10th, 2017.
Worst day of my life. Yeah.
You got a phone call that would forever change your life.
So months leading up to this, we had noticed my dad's change in behavior. And my dad was like my Superman, right? We had our ups and downs, but always my biggest fan, always my biggest supporter. And within 6 or 7 hours that day, it had gone from potentially a stroke to a seizure to terminal brain cancer. And, you know, the doctor's kind of looking at us and they're like, maybe a year at best, right? And I'm sitting here going, wait, what? Like, your brain doesn't process those kinds of things the way that you think it should, because you're still trying to catch up from speeding to the emergency room, right? So my dad ended up dying March 7th, 2018.
So 5 months later.
5 months later. And it was not pretty. I had a lot of people ask, like, didn't you enjoy that time? No, I didn't. I watched him deteriorate. I changed his diapers. I cleaned him up when he fell down the stairs. I mean, it wasn't him.
And he was in hospice, and you administered his last dose of morphine.
I did,
to
yeah.
keep him comfortable. So you, and he died shortly after that.
Yeah, he died about 5 minutes after that last one goes in, from what we know, peacefully, right? I went home the next morning and pounded as much vodka as I could physically get down until I couldn't feel anything. Mm-hmm. Fast forward 3.5 weeks later, I find out I was pregnant. And that was a shock, right? I had already contemplated divorce, and at that point I was like, okay, well, I'm not a monster, so I can't drink and take Xanax while I'm pregnant, right? And I can't go through all of this. But in the back of my head, I knew I had a starting point again, that I knew after 9 months I could pick that bottle back up, mm-hmm. and there would be no problems.
Yeah. Pretty interesting how God was working in your life, like knew that you were at this pivotal moment in your active addiction, and you find out you're pregnant, and so you kind of pressed pause on it for 9 months.
Right.
But immediately picked it back up within 1 month of giving birth, and then 1 month later you filed for
divorce.
So take me to the pool party incident. So Turner is your son?
Yeah, Turner.
And so how old was he during this pool party?
He was born December 3rd. This was May of 2020, so year and a half-ish. So obviously picked up drinking pretty heavily, having, single parenting with baby, and took him to a friend's, for just a fun afternoon. And at some point during that time, Turner had been playing and fell, and I was too intoxicated to recognize the severity of his injury, and found out about a day and a half later that he had broken his leg. I had justified it in my brain as he just started walking. He's a kid. He does all of this, and as much as it hurts to say this, was able to hand him off to his dad and be like, not my problem. Which, as a mom, saying that out loud doesn't exactly feel great, but that's where I was. So obviously CPS got involved, and at the time there was a lot of fear and resentment, and now I think that was God's last way of saying, this is your last chance. He gave me a lot of subtle, hey, maybe pull it together, and then CPS knocking on your door, ultimately saved my life. Yeah.
Tell me about your last drunk. It wasn't your worst one.
No, my last one wasn't even my worst. I went to pick my kid up drunk. Turns out you can't do that.
And how far after the pool party? It was just a couple weeks, right?
This was a few weeks. I had gone to try to get Child Protective Services happy. I had gone to a treatment center, which was actually good. They were able to detox me off of Xanax. And then ended up drinking a few days later, and it was the first time that I openly picked the bottle over my child. And when I went to pick him up, his dad was like, "You're not taking him," and I was like, "Fine." And that was it. I mean, that was the night. I looked in the mirror. I didn't have a soul. I had no hope. I had no guts to kill myself, but I didn't want to be alive. And I think, it's an emptiness that's just, it's morbid.
Yeah. And so at that point, CPS really got involved.
Oh,
and so
yeah.
there was just consequence after consequence put on
Everything.
you.
I mean,
Like
it was
UAs, BAs.
BAs, house visits, supervision. Fortunately, for some unknown reason, the judge decided that as long as I was sober, I could keep Turner. He wasn't taken away from me. So I was a lucky one in this situation. But yeah, I mean, you want to talk about getting involved in your life, they're in, and as they should be. You know, it was one of those where I didn't do anything. Oh, I did.
Yep.
Right?
And so that was July 20th.
It was July
2020.
2020.
And that was your last drink.
That was it.
So now, yeah, y'all give it up for Christina. So we don't do friends, but you know, you'll have 3 years of sobriety here this July.
I have
so
today number of days sobriety.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. But 2.5 years in, what does recovery look like for you today?
You know, my recovery's evolved. The first year was all about the next milestone and getting those chips and diving into the step work. I found an amazing sponsor that originally told me she wasn't going to sponsor me, and I was like, okay, rude. But then what I needed to hear was that she wanted me to prove that I was serious and that I wasn't just going to be in and out. So I dove into the step work and called her every day. Ended up doing my 5th step in San Diego. Highly recommend.
On the beach in San
Diego. And, you know, so that first year kind of was very structured, and it went by pretty quick. And then coming into my second year, I happened to be at a sober gym, and that's where I met my boyfriend.
He's great. Dan's a great guy.
He's also here. And that really shifted my trajectory of my recovery in a sense of I wanted to start living, and I wanted to start creating those memories, right, that I didn't have. You know, one of the first memories I have was the first time I put my son to bed sober. And I remember like putting his PJs on and putting him in bed and checking on him. And like, I knew he had had dinner. I knew that like I was going to be able to help him with anything. Right. And like, that's a pivotal moment. Like, that's where I was like, that's recovery. Right. So now, you know, my recovery is not linear. I have good and bad days. I think my biggest thing is I just don't make bigger messes, right? If things are hard, Dan always reminds me, he's like, you have 2 choices, right? You just got to break it down. And he tells me, you know, a problem shared is a problem cut in half, right? So talk about it.
A problem shared is a problem cut in half. I love that. That's good stuff.
Yeah, no. So he's been huge, and the people that are in my life now know about my recovery. And you know, the one thing that I've learned is you just have to hit your knees, right? You know, you have to ask for that help. And for me, my biggest thing is I had to get honest. I had to admit that, like, I didn't just have, oh, I drink too much. Like, no, my life was unmanageable. My mind was unmanageable.
Yep, that was a big one, to realize that with or without alcohol, the way that I was living was just as unmanageable.
The way that
without
I
God's
was
help.
justifying thinking and this seeking of validation, man, I had to learn to love myself. I had to look internally and say, what is going on? Because you take that numbing away, and there's a lot of feelings that come out.
Absolutely, yeah. Christina, what is the word of hope to the person that's in here tonight or struggling online with us, who is in their active addiction, maybe dealing with co-addictions, who has CPS on their back, who isn't sure that there's an end to this? How are they going to get sober and stay sober? What is the word of hope that you would give that person, or to Christina 3 years ago?
You gave me this, and I still had to think about it a lot. Do the next right thing. You don't have to tackle everything right now. You're not going to fix it all tonight. Break it down. You know, for me, it was opening the door, letting CPS in, right? It was the next right thing. It was saying, okay, I agree to doing these things. You know, I broke it down, and it's crazy how I started doing the next right thing, and all the other bad stuff stopped happening, right? So when I just look at it as there's 2 choices, the right and the wrong. And it's that each decision will lead me to the next one. And I don't have to worry about all of that right now. All I have to worry about is what is the next right choice in this moment, in this situation. And if I don't know, to pause, right? Think about it. And it doesn't have to be the elephant, right? You can just take little tiny steps, and before you know it, you've made 3 or 4 right decisions, and things get easier.
Yeah. One last thing, you told me a story that will stick with me for a long time, but a full circle. I think that we get these authentic life full circle moments when we really know that God's telling us we're doing the next right thing, we're on the right path. And so you were given one of those with Turner and his leg recently.
Whew, okay. I'll make this quick, and I probably will cry because it was a lot. So Turner came into our room at like 10:30 one night, just crying, right? I'm thinking, okay, whatever, he's like, my foot. I go in, I'm like, your foot probably fell asleep. You're fine, go back to bed. And an hour later, he comes in, Mom, my foot. And it was like this wave came over me. And the only thing I could think about was something's wrong. When I take him to the hospital, CPS is going to take him away. And it was like in that moment where I just had to say, like, whatever I do next has to be the right thing. And if that means that CPS gets involved again, then that's what it is, right? And Dan was really quick to remind me, like, you're sober. You're not drinking right now. Like, this is your opportunity to say, this is the next right thing. Now, it turned out it was nothing. He was up running around, the next morning. But man, you want to talk about flashbacks? Like, it just came over me of what I didn't do for him and the pain that he was in then. And it was like you said, it was God giving me like that second chance to make it up to him and to show him I am present and I am ready and, willing to do whatever I have to.
Yeah. It's powerful stuff just to get that full circle, just a second chance to kind of go through that again. When we met, you told me today recovery doesn't look like walking around being Superman everywhere I go with this big S on my chest, but it does mean that I'm not the villain of my day and that I'm leaving the world a bit better than where I found it that morning. And so thank you for being here with me tonight and leaving the world a bit better than where you found it. So
thank you.
Thanks, Christina.
Yeah.
Y'all give it up for Christina.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Noelle. And it's one of the things I love about this community. We get all the stories of recovery and life looking so different today than it did back when. Isn't it a beautiful thing? Thank you, Christina. All right, y'all, the way we close things here on a Saturday night is the same way we begin, with Matt dancing, yes. We close with heartaches, the same way we do with celebrations. We take 3 minutes for this. It's a really important part of being community together, being in the mud together. So take 3 minutes and give us the heartache. Again, if you're online, drop them in the Facebook comments, the YouTube comments, wherever you're joining us from. And if you're here in person, Darren will pass around a mic. Matt has a mic. Give us the thing you need hope for, the struggle, what you need prayer for. And something very profound and powerful happens when we're all in it together, and God always hears the cries of the people. All right, let's take 3.
Amen. My name is Mike. I want to lift up my sister Tammy in prayer. She fell off her scooter and bruised her hip, and she can't work, and she's sliding back into her alcoholism. And I just want to lift her up in prayer because I know God can help her get through this tough situation. Thank you.
Prayers for her, man. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Please lift up our friend Emerald's mother who's in the hospital dying.
All right. Prayers for your friend.
I need to find a full-time job really quick. I have a job now, but I need a full-time job.
All right. Prayers for full-time work. It's important.
My name is Melissa, and I just want to lift up my friend Ashley, who found her girlfriend Jessica dead of an overdose yesterday.
We have 2 sons that aren't talking to us right now. One, it's been over a year, another few months. And I don't want to say pray for us. I want to say pray for them, that they find themselves in a place where they let us back in their lives.
Prayers for them.
Yes, my name is Danita, and I'd like to lift my family up in prayer. On January 22nd, we had to admit my mom into a nursing home, which made me relapse, but I got back on track. And if you can just lift up the Anders family in prayer, I would appreciate it.
All right. Prayers for you and the family.
I pray for all people in need tonight.
Thank you for that. That's a beautiful prayer. We're joining you in that.
My name's Elisa, and I'd just like to pray for my family because it's coming up on 1 year of my mom overdosing on methamphetamine.
Prayers for you and the family. Anybody else? We've got 43 seconds.
Hi, my name's Patience. I just want to lift up my dad who's still out in active addiction, just that he finds his way home.
Patience, praying for your dad. Thank you for lifting him up.
My name's Kristen. I would like to hold up my brother-in-law's father who is back in the hospital again.
All right, lifting him up.
Prayers.
One final one.
I asked a couple weeks ago for prayers for my Aunt Julie, and she had gotten her heavenly wings, and she passed on, and her funeral will be Tuesday, but a well-lived life, 93 years old.
93 years old. Holding the family in prayers. Matt, you going to join me up here? Yeah, dude, get that mic back. Come on now.
I ain't gonna lie, I sound like Jelly Roll.
Yeah, do you want to sing it?
Somebody save me.
All right, maybe we're going to move on from that and join with our online community. And if you want to stick around for the show afterwards, Matt's going to sing some Jelly Roll. All right, Matt, you take the first one, dude.
Scott, our good friend, Bags. My heart hurts being away from my love, Aaron. See you tomorrow, baby. I love you. I don't know if you for her or for me, but I love you too, Scott.
Scott, we're glad you're here. Monty says, pray for Brandon W., who is really struggling today. We are lifting up Brandon W. in our prayers and thoughts and trusting that what's going to happen is going to be good.
Susan, please continue to pray for my friend and her son who is fighting to find sobriety. That's our community. Prayers go, and we'll be the empathetic one.
Yeah. Christy says, prayers for Jen's mom, who is going to have another back surgery. Christy, thank you for mentioning Jen's mom. Glad you all are with us tonight. Prayers for Jen's mom and her surgery.
Karen Coleman says, prayers for Steve's mom and Kyle's grandma, who is in hospice and is struggling. Hospice is always tough, and prayers go out to them.
Yeah. Thank you, Karen. Stephen says, please pray for Jimmy Carter, the people of East Palestine, and the Temple University police officer, Philadelphia, who just lost his life in the line of duty. Stephen, thank you for mentioning those current events, lifting them all up and holding them in prayer. A lot of sadness.
Stephanie, our friend, says, my friend Brian is out there, untethered and causing damage, praying that he finds his way back to the rooms very soon. Prayers to your friend, Stephanie.
Yeah, prayers for Brian. Matt, thank you for joining me up here, Jelly Roll. Listen, y'all, one of the ways I hope you see how important our mission is here, breaking the silence of addiction, creating space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. As we see each and every week with the celebrations, with the heartaches of being community together. And one of the ways we remain community together, I say this every week, we don't exist without your giving. That's the truest way to say it. And we're really grateful for those of you that have chosen to make free your home and have chosen to donate to free. So I do want to let you know, first, how grateful we are for that. And second, how much it is needed here and how much it's appreciated. And there's 2 boxes. There's one here on your way out if you want to hit that box, or there's one just outside these doors. Your generous giving makes a huge difference here. If you don't want to hit the boxes but you want to give online, that's cool too. There's 3 ways to actually do it online. And the first way is to download the free app. It's free to download, Free Spiritual Community. All the content's on there. Giving is on there. You can donate there. However you want to do it, monthly, one time, weekly, whatever your preference is. Or you can go straight to the website, freespiritualcommunity.com/give, and you can give right directly on our website or text a number on your screen. It'll walk you through a simple set of instructions. Your generous giving literally helps keep the mission of breaking the silence of addiction thriving in this community. And y'all, we need it. So thank you for being a part of that. Thank you for those of you that have made that a spiritual practice in your life and sacrificial. We get it. We get it. It's a big deal. All right. Shall we go out with a prayer? I think we should. Shall we go out with, actually, before we go out with prayer, just if you want, open your hands, because it's a good sign of openness for God's movement in the world, for Spirit moving through you, in you, and all around you, to be reminded that Spirit is in your breath, in your breathing. So take a moment and breathe it in, because it's good. And let's go out with the serenity prayer. If you don't know it, it's on your screen. It starts with, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen, my free brothers and sisters. May you get in the mud this week and experience all kinds of grace and peace, and we'll see you next week. Peace.